Hi, welcome to this edition of Garden Guns. It might be a bit of a long one, this one, but I'll try and be as quick as possible, succinct as possible, keep it to the point. Right, keeping my promise, we are here to talk about today my TX200. And this is the rifle I traded my HW80 in for. And that has caused a few comments. A few people said I'm nuts, but I will throughout this video explain my reasons behind making that swap. But anyway, let's have a quick chat about TX200 and a really brief overview of the history as far as I understand it. So the TX200 originally came out in December 91, and I believe it was Arms' answer to the HW77. The original, at least the pictures I've seen of the original TX200 at the time looked really similar to the HW97, which was, I'm not sure which came first. I'll have a look, but yeah, it was very similar in overall looks. Anyway, in 1995, people had they were asking for a shorter version, so Air Arms released the HC, and they released the Mark II later on as well. Mark II, main difference between the Mark II and the Mark I was that they included the bear trap mechanism, which is something, once again, that causes a bit of controversy among users. Quite a few people are not a huge fan of it, but we'll talk about that later on. And then we get to the Mark III, which I believe was released in the early 2000s. I think it was the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. Anyway, and that is where we're at today. And the main difference, especially on the HC version, is, I believe, compared to the Mark II Hunter carbine, the Mark III Hunter carbine had some work done on the internals to make the cocking action slightly easier, because the main complaint in the Mark II, as far as I understood it, because they hadn't changed the internals at all, the cocking action on the Mark II HC was harder, because you effectively had a less of a lever moment to compress the internals, whereas on the full size one you had a longer cocking arm, so it just gave you that extra extra lever moment to be able to do the work to compress the spring. So they changed that in the Mark III. Somehow they didn't really lose any power, and we've ended up where we are at today. So with the really brief and extremely loose history on the TX200, but there are people out there that have done a way better job. Let's talk about this particular rifle. So starting at the tip, ending at the butt. As I said, this is the TX200 HC. This is in 177, and it has been tuned by Ratworks. It was tuned in 2022, so it's a 2-year-old tune on this. We'll talk about that a bit more later. So the barrel itself is shrouded. The barrel on this one is about 31 centimeters. It does have a plug at the end of it that you can take out and add another mod. Do I think it's necessary? Personally, I think you lose the benefit of the short action on this. The fact that it is a compact rifle, and to add another mod on the end, I think you would take that away. And I think the moderation inside the shroud does a pretty damn good job of keeping the shots quiet anyway. I think the main noise from this rifle anyway, to me, is the sound of the action letting go. So I think that's probably going to give your position away a little bit more than the actual sound of the pellet coming out the end of the barrel. Underneath the barrel you've got the underlever, the cocking arm, which is held in place by a very well sprung ball bearing, and then you've got the cocking lever itself, which has got on the HC version it's got the cocking aid, just to give you a little bit more of a grip. Sling swivels, the action itself, the barrel is all, because it's not a brake barrel, it's basically in the system, so you've got that extra sort of rigidity. The bluing on this is absolutely superb. It is second hand, so there is a couple of marks on it, but it's a deep sort of dark colour, and really nice. It's got a beautiful beechwood stock with phenomenal checkering on it. It really is gorgeous, and it comes back into their CD trigger, which I understand is short for computer design trigger. It's sort of Air Arms' answer to the record trigger. This particular trigger does require some work doing on it. I'm not massively happy with it. It's got a really, really long first stage, and it's something that I'm gonna have to look online and get some tips on how to adjust the trigger on this, because yeah, I do need to do some work on it. Comes back into the pistol grip. Once again, a really nice palm swell to it with really gorgeous checkering, rosewood cap, and then into the buttstock with a rubber recoil pad. It's got a beautiful cheek piece on it that's been really well sort of cut out, which gives you a really nice sort of cheek weld for the scope. I originally had really low mounts on this, but I found that with that cheek piece I needed to put slightly higher mounts on to be able to get a really good sort of sight picture. Also, you've got a cross bolt safety, very much like the Virarc, just to give you that extra added extra added safety feature. I do like the automatic cross bolt safety, although time and time again I'll forget to switch it. I'll forget to put it to fire, and yeah, come to the shot, pull the trigger, or go to pull the trigger and nothing happens because I've forgotten to release the safety. But I think I'd rather have it as a feature than not. Anyway, the overall length on this is 97 centimeters. I think I said the barrel was 31. And the weight distribution, well, I sort of did a little bit of a belt and braces weigh in. I weighed my 80 and then I weighed this against it, and both of them scoped, and they were within a couple of within a couple of 100 grams. They were basically around about just over 5 kilograms each, so there wasn't a huge amount of difference. The main difference between this and the 80 is that the 80 was a much longer rifle, and this is a lot shorter. And that sort of shortness, for me anyway, not being the tallest and the bulkiest of chaps, I find that the weight distribution on this just suits my frame a little bit better. But anyway, with that all said, let's get on to the shooting. It is a little bit breezy. I'm going to have to move the table back up the garden because we're going to be shooting at 40 meters today. Yeah, 40 meters with a Springer and some wind. I'm not helping myself here. But anyway, let's go to the shooting section, see how I do, and then we'll have the summing up. So, back with you in a minute. Right, so here we go. 40 meters, which is a hell of a push for me with a Springer. 10 shots, GSB exact Diablos, 8.44 grains, 453 on the head size. As I say, 40 meters, little bit of breeze, left to right. Let's see how we do. Oh, itchy nose. Right, let's go grab the target, see how I've done. Right, first off, I apologise if I'm rubbing my nose or top of my head. Insects seem to be landing on me and my hay fever's just kicked in and I'm starting to get really itchy. Anyway, let's talk about the grouping. So, that first shot, God knows what happened there. I saw that pellet destabilise. So whether I crushed it slightly as I was putting in the breech or it was already slightly misshapen, I'm not quite sure. That pellet there, that was most definitely me. I pulled that shot. I know I pulled it. I felt myself do it and I saw where it went. The rest of the 8 shots though, out the 10 shot group, are all underneath my thumbnail. So I think that just goes to show how good this rifle truly is. If I can do 8 shots under a thumbnail at 40 meters with a Springer only knows what a really good Springer shooter could do with this rifle. You know, it is superb. So I suppose the next question I need to answer is, do I regret selling my HW80 for this? I think we know the answer to that question is going to be no. This was in the shop for 625 quid, which is no small chunk of change. And when I got to test it, it's crawly, creepy crawlies. When I got to test it, I was so impressed by the deviation over the shot string, the consistency and the recoil cycle, that I was like, right, I've got to take it home and give it a proper test and hopefully do a video on it. And within a week I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to keep it. And to pay for it, unfortunately, the HW80 had to make way. My main reasons for doing the swap is that I knew the HW80 was in 2.2 and my 99S is in 2.2. And I shoot the 99S more than I shoot the 80. I also wanted a 177 Springer, and I think if you've seen my other videos, you know that I've already done a video a couple of years back on the TX200, and I said in that video that I could see one of these in my life. In that video I did say I thought it would be a 2.2, but you know, yeah, 177 Springer is something I wanted, and I wanted an HC, a Hunter Carbine TX200, so it was a no-brainer. You know, after I spent a bit of time with this, I realised that this was the rifle for me, and the 80 had to help pay it off. You know, help pay for this purchase. So, which is why it's went. Which is why it's gone. Oh, try and get my words out. I've got a bit of work to do with this. The thing about the 80, the thing I missed the most about the 80 was I'd got the trigger really, really nice. And the trigger on this, the first stage, I don't know what the previous owner's done to it, but the first stage is appalling. It is long, it is sloppy. The second stage is absolutely fine. It's really, really nice, but it's just not, it's not pleasant to shoot. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference to the accuracy, you know, maybe, I mean, you never know, you know, if it does make a bit of difference, I'll put an Instagram post of the card up, but yeah, it's just not the most pleasant first stage on it, so I do need to do a bit of work on that. But overall, you know, this rifle, for my size and build, I just find it nicer to shoot than the HW80. My 80 was a stunning bit of kit, but it was a tad on the long side for me, and I prefer the sort of more compact nature and the weight distribution in this, especially for shooting offhand. Although, to be fair to the 80, even despite its length, it still was a really, really nice rifle to shoulder and shoot freehand anyway. So I'm sort of really nitpicking at this point. I just prefer this just that little bit more. Anyway, right, what else can I say? Okay, let's talk about the real elephant in the room. So the price of one of these new is something like, I think I found it for 685 quid online. You know, untuned, straight out the box, 685 quid. And from the same shop you can get an HW 97K in beach for 515. So that is a price difference of 170 quid. Now, personally, I've owned and shot the 97. It's a great rifle. I personally didn't gel with it. I preferred the Mark II TX200 I had on test, and I prefer this rifle. Do I prefer it to the tune of 170 quid? Obviously, if I was a lottery, if I win the Euro Millions lottery tonight, then probably not. No, I wouldn't care. I'd pay for the rifle that I thought shot nicer, you know, was a nicer shooting rifle. But you know, 170 quid is a huge ask. And is the TX200 170 quid better than a 97K? Personally, I don't think so. Yes, in my opinion, the TX200 out the box is shooter to sweet, sweeter to shoot. Once again with the words, Neil. But yeah, 170 quid sweeter. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You know, and then if you put the price of a tune on top, if you want to do it, go down that line, the price of the tune. I mean, effectively, you could go to a tuning house, get your 97K tuned, and only be 30 quid up on buying one of these straight out the box. And I think therein lies my major issue, and one of the things I would say to Air Arms, you know, you're asking an awful lot of your client base at the moment. You know, a lot of us will choose British over a lot of other things, you know, and are happy to pay a little bit extra if it's worth it. But you know, you're asking an awful lot for an average British shooter out there to pay that sort of money for a rifle that is only slightly better than its German rival. And I think that's where I'm going to end this video. Summing up, God, I love this rifle. If you want a TX200, do what I did. Go and buy one second hand. If you've got the money in your pocket and it's not a particular issue to you how you spend that money, you know, go and try 97K and go and try a TX200 out, and you make the choice. You make the decision yourself. But in my personal opinion, I do think the TX200 just pips the 97. And if money's no object, go and spend that extra cash. But for the rest of us mortals out there, it's a hell of an ask. So I think as a second-hand purchase, phenomenal. But at the moment, if I was buying new, I'd probably buy the 97K. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I apologise, it's going to be a while until the next video comes out. I think it's going to be on the 99S when I get it back off fill. It's the beginning of the school holidays. I want to spend some time with my family. My son's just done his GCSEs. I want to hang out with my wife. And weirdly, I am actually really, really busy. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be phenomenally busy with work. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get a video out. But I hope to get it done within the next month or two. So keep an eye out for that. And until then, please stay safe. Please enjoy the summer holidays. I hope you guys have got something nice planned. Yeah. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.